has developed effectiveness added to the title of the section on International Development Cooperation, EDC, which signals a renewed urgency to drive action on this effectiveness, on the effectiveness of all types of development cooperation, including North-South, South-South, and triangular cooperation, the effectiveness of MDBs and climate finance. 2, it includes a strong statement on the importance to uphold long-standing effectiveness principles, country ownership, focus on results, inclusive partnerships, transparency, and mutual accountability. The principles are still very valid for addressing the challenges in an evolving development cooperation landscape. 3, it includes a statement on reinvigorating the development cooperation architecture globally and in countries as a basis for a more effective, inclusive, coherent, and efficient cooperation and partnership that both honors existing commitments and meets and adapts to emerging needs. 4, firmly mentions GPDC as key for supporting global knowledge sharing and learning. In this vein, we are here today at the launch here at FFP4 of a city platform for action initiative under the working name of the 2030 Pact for Effective Development Cooperation. I would also like to thank all partners who have endorsed the initiative and especially the one taking a leading role in the work. The initiative is a call to action for a co-created development cooperation system fit for purpose and true to the effectiveness principles. The initiative will build on ongoing work, including the global monitoring round, and should not be seen as a new platform, but rather as a means to reset how we work together by aligning efforts behind country and local priorities and fostering trust. Some of you have already signed up to this initiative, and if not, we're inviting all to do so. Joining the 2030 Pact means shaping the future of development cooperation by co-creating a political roadmap, learning and sharing practical solutions through inclusive dialogues and learning labs, and helping craft a new narrative on an effective development cooperation that reflects today's diverse realities and challenges. We see this work as a stepping stone from FFD4 to the next important event on development effectiveness in the form of the 2025 Busan Forum to be hosted by the Republic of Korea in October, which is to be followed by the 2026-2027 fourth high-level meeting of the Global Partnership. The HLM will follow up on the commitments made at FFD4 and take stock of the final results of the global monitoring round. I welcome you all to join in shaping this work and vision ahead in a truly participatory and co-creating manner. Thank you.
Work in progress.
Thank you, Anika, for setting the stage so clearly. The outcome document about the effectiveness agenda in the outcome document, about the GPDC monitoring exercise, about the Pact. So this was really great and effective. Actually, I'm going to be able to cut my speaking points in the interest of time. So thank you so much. I'm going to jump directly to the essence of this meeting. And as properly introduced, this is the first opportunity we have to discuss the nature of the Pact. As it was properly argued, the Pact is meant to bring people, organizations, structures, infrastructures together. It's not the beginning of a new platform, of a new infrastructure. It's really synergizing with understanding that so many efforts out there in the interest of country ownership. So that's the meaning of this event. And we have very valid speakers, panelists here with us. Very briefly, we know that we have inputs from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sierra Leone, Republic of Korea, the DAC chair, And obviously later in the meeting, we're going to hear from other colleagues from Australia. This is a partnership for effective development cooperation. Even so, very, very good opportunity in terms of listening, hearing from different voices and stakeholders. And let me just add one point about this. The GPDC is a multi-stakeholder platform. In its essence, the governance of the GPDC is multi-stakeholder from the beginning. The GPDC has been around for the past 10 years. Sometimes we tend to forget. So we have a history, we have experience. We believe we have a lot to share with the others. And we have significant number of non-executive stakeholders, including foundations and peers, local authorities, and CSOs, obviously. And these non-executive actors are included in the governance, and that's why I have the honor today to chair this event as the non-executive co-chair. That I'm sharing this job with my colleague Noble here in the room. So thank you very much. So let's move quickly to the substance of the discussion, because we already had introductory remarks. And the first panel is really about very challenging title, Unpacking the Development Cooperation Landscape. I think we are all aware, as we are here for this, about the challenges coming from the current landscape, cuts, aid cuts, fiscal tightening, and multiple priorities that are placing ODA budgets and budgets in general under extreme pressure. So we have three questions for this first panel. The most pressing priorities we need to address to advance the effectiveness agenda. The second question is about understanding the bottlenecks. And the third question is really how to translate into practice the good things coming from CIVIC. We know that there are a number of challenges. We're going to discuss these challenges together in the environment, institutional capacity, how to inject trust into the system. We're going to have several important voices from my right. We have Her Excellency Madame Verne from Sierra Leone. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. The Deputy Minister of the Republic of Korea, Madame Regina Kim. And to my left, we have the Pact Chair, Mr. Carsten Stauer. So the idea is to start, if this is okay, from right to left. You can address the questions as you feel like, and hopefully we're going to have a nice dialogue between the panelists. Obviously, you can speak in whatever, step in whatever you like. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I don't know whether I should stand on existing protocols. If there weren't existing protocols, permit me to lay aside any protocols. And I would like to thank you for inviting me to address these framing questions. I'm privileged to speak first because you just put the questions out there, so I can pick any topic, and that's what I do within the questions. But I would also like to thank the Global Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation, providing me with this opportunity to intervene in this forum. I think that it's a great privilege. And Mr. Moderator, you did talk about the scaling back of development cooperation in your statement. And we know that key partners have had to scale back for various reasons. Some, I won't mention the countries where they have just chosen to scale back. And some of the destabilizing effects, new tariffs. So with all these, there's a high risk of hard-earned gains in sustainable development, particularly amongst the low-income developing countries, such as Sierra Leone, to be reversed. That's the immediate effect. Limited capacity for domestic revenue collection further compounds those vulnerabilities. And therefore, we welcome and strongly commend the call for the Financing for Development Outcomes document that urges developed countries to fulfill their long-standing commitments to allocate 0.7% of their GNI. So despite the evolving financing landscape, we want developing countries to stick to that commitment for the ODA, for the official ODA for developing countries. So despite this urgent appeal, the current state of development finance makes one thing abundantly clear. Developing nations increasingly have to turn to alternative and innovative sources of finance. And in the spirit of this, I've just come from, well, not just come from, Sierra Leone convened a side event this morning, which actually focused on scaling up domestic revenue mobilization. So I'll speak to some of the issues in answering the question. And it was focused on harnessing people-centered innovative finance, including private finance, diaspora bonds, and blended finance. As part of that agenda, we focused on two assets, which are our mineral wealth fund that has just been set up, and also an interesting agri-tech solution that harnesses solar energy, zero waste, recycling, and everything that we want to incorporate into sustainable agriculture, which we would want to replicate countrywide in Sierra Leone. And we actually had the developers were representatives from our mineral wealth fund meeting, and also the developers of this agri-tech proposal. If there wasn't enough time, I would have brought them in to do a demonstration, which was very interesting. So, but at the same time, we need to, of course, improve our effectiveness of development cooperation that you have mentioned, ensuring, and this is what the Vice President said in his keynote address, ensuring that every dollar that we save, that every dollar or leon that is generated, that we actually see the impact. And this is what effective aid coordination is aimed at. And it's more crucial than ever. And I think this is why we're echoing this. So that's why Sierra Leone embraces the effectiveness agenda championed by EDC. And we are currently in the final stages of the fourth monitoring round, which is providing us with evidence needed to enhance the quality of our partnership with a wide range of stakeholders in line with the 4 internationally agreed effectiveness principles that we're sticking to. For us, effectiveness means strengthening institutional and policy frameworks, particularly in public financial management, improving transparency and mutual accountability, and ensuring alignment with national priorities while minimizing duplication. Enhancing transparency and accountability is not only essential for ensuring optimal impact from existing resources, but also for attracting additional support. It's a fact that development partners are most inclined to invest where there are credible systems, where there are key results, and where there are tangible impacts. We also recognize the urgent need to improve quality and reliability of data systems and infrastructure, which are essential for measuring progress, which we do, and also at every level, which we do at every level. The chair did, I don't know how many minutes I was given, but let me just refer to the fact that the chair spoke about South-South technical coordination. And here we see great potential in leveraging South-South technical cooperation to enhance peer learning and knowledge exchange program in various spheres of government. And fortunately, and just recently, Sierra Leone proudly hosted the third high-level forum on South-South and Triangular Cooperation. And as a result of that, we did discuss accelerated collaboration. And one of the key recommendations from the forum was to establish robust national systems. And as I wanted to say, as a result of that, my ministry is working to actually establish a dedicated directorate, amongst our many directorates, for South-South cooperation and Triangle Cooperation, which was endorsed also by His Excellency the President in a policy statement. And this will play a critical role in us bringing these partnerships together. So against this backdrop and given the strong alignment between national initiatives and the objective of the 2030 Pact for Effective Development Cooperation, Sierra Leone has not only chosen to support the Pact, but to play a leadership role in its implementation. We believe that the Pact is not merely another declaration, and we've had a number of those. It is a bold, timely, and reliable reset button for global development partnership, one that offers evidence-based pathways to deliver results centered on country leadership, inclusion, and mutual accountability. So I hope I haven't exhausted all of the questions, but this is my intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for providing the perspective of Sierra Leone. We are all taking notes because we have to do homework. Pretty soon we're going to start in the process towards the next UPDC level meeting. All these elements we have to group together in the agenda for the next high level meeting. And thank you so much for specifically referring to South-South cooperation as part of the equation, surely. And also thank you so much for recalling the challenges coming from the current crisis and efforts we're making to, on one end, make the most of the but on the other hand, to attract different kinds of resources. So thank you so much. Let me quickly recall that by mid-July, we're going to convene on call the leading group of the Pact to start brainstorming and start charting the next steps. So this is a process that SGPDC would like to keep moving as fast as possible. Vice Wills, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me begin by extending my sincere gratitude to the co-chairs of the Global Partnership, Sweden, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in Indonesia, and CSO Partnership for Development Tactics, as well as the Joint Support Team for organizing this important side event. Well, the fourth international conference on financing for development is a crucial opportunity to reaffirm our shared commitment to the sustainable development goals. It also provides timely guidance on how development cooperation must evolve to remain effective in today's world. We're living in a period of profound global disruption through political tensions, macroeconomic uncertainties, climate emergencies, and protracted crisis have created a very complex and challenging development environment. While global development needs are growing, resources are becoming scarce, this stark reality underscores the limits of traditional cooperation and highlights the need for transformative and yet coherent approach. In this context, the launch of the 2030 Pact for Effective Development Cooperation is very, very significant in that it offers a pathway to translate the principles of effectiveness into concrete action. It also sets the foundation for a more inclusive and country-led cooperation model, one that is responsive to evolving needs and grounded in mutual accountability. As a country that transition from aid recipient to donor, Korea remains committed to doing its part as a responsible partner. Under the vision of our new administration, we will continue to contribute to global cooperation and solidarity by strengthening effectiveness and accountability, encouraging support for the least developed countries, and contributing to global efforts to address poverty, inequality, human rights, and humanitarian crises in health, climate, food, and conflict. Trade is also playing a proactive role in revitalizing the GPEDC agenda. We work to include that development effectiveness was appropriately emphasized in the FFD4 negotiation process. In this regard, Korea welcomes the FFD4 outcome document's recognition of development effectiveness. However, we note that its prominence could have been stronger given the importance at this critical moment. We're also pleased to share that the 8th forum will take place this fall alongside the GPD EDC's Learning and Accelerating Program. Since 2014, Korea has hosted the Busan Global Partnership Forum 7 times. These efforts aim to build momentum for practical implementation, share lessons and evidence, and support partner countries in translating effectiveness principles into real progress. To conclude, Korea stands ready to support the Pact, not just in words, but in action. We plan to put forward specific ideas to strengthen GPEDC's monitoring and knowledge sharing functions, including proposals for institutionalizing its implementation mechanisms and exploring the possibility of establishing a dedicated support structure. So in particular, we hope that the upcoming 8th Busan Global Partnership Forum result will serve as a platform for deeper dialogue and practical collaboration on these efforts. So let's work together to advance a more effective, inclusive, and result-oriented development cooperation system that truly deliver for partner countries and their people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister. And I really would like to thank you also on the occasion of this meeting. Thank you, Korea, for the efforts you actually made to support this agenda throughout the negotiations around outcome document. You may know that as GPC, we created an informal group called Friends of the Effectiveness Agenda in New York throughout the negotiations, and Korea has been very instrumental in making this effort really effective. So thank you so much. And the meeting that Korea will host in September, October is one of those milestones for this community that we really want to make sure to support and to make it as successful as possible. So thank you so much. And I also believe that you raise a very fundamental, substantive point, which makes me think that one of the GPDC ambition is to make sure that these principles of effectiveness agenda apply to the entirety of international cooperation, not just to ODA, but possibly even beyond that. If you look at the political chapeau to the outcome document from FFD4, this reference to country ownership, country policy space. So these elements are already there. And on this note, I would like to pass the floor to the Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to participate in this important launch of the Pact for Effective Development Cooperation. And a lot of good things have been said, and I'll not repeat all of it, but I'll make 3 points. I think one of them is to deepen a bit the understanding of where we are. And I think we are in a very as a global community in a very difficult situation. Let's not underestimate that. There are huge changes in the global economy, in global trade, in global investment. And that's basically a lot of question marks flowing all over. If I look at the data that OECD produced last week on what is expected from ODA this year, we're talking about the 9 to 17% decline in total ODA in 25 compared to 24. That's a projection. It doesn't not necessarily truth telling, but it's as good as we get at this point in time, which means that this will be a huge fall in ODA. The reason for that are very, very clear. There are budgetary pressures. There are what has transpired in the United States, not least, but it's not only the United States. It's also budgetary pressures within Europe for budget reasons, also because there is a need right now to increase defense spending due to the increased security threat from Russia, which of course is the primary obligation of any government is to take care of its own security. So we are in a situation where aid will go down, concessional aid will go down, at the same time as demands go up. We know all the figures in terms of the SDG financing gap. We know that it's going to increase in the years to come. So we have an increasing disparity between what actually is provided in terms of concessional finance. I won't talk about concessional finance here, and the needs that these concessional finance is part of bridging. That is, of course, back to the essence of the EDC, to get as much as possible in terms of results, in terms of impact out of every dollar. Maybe for these days it's more euros that are spent in development cooperation. And that is something that will have an increased importance in the whole trajectory, in the whole narrative, in the whole discourse about development in the time to come. For the DAC, we have decided, and we launched that yesterday, to initiate a review process where we would look at what are the changes in the global development cooperation landscape. How does that affect ODA, the role of ODA, and how does it affect also the role of the DAC? We'll do that in an open and inclusive way. We try to avoid the impression of this being a closed club where we just look at ourselves. We want to have others involved in that and have the impressions and the contribution from other partners, stakeholders, to what do they think about these issues. Transformation of the landscape, the role of ODA, how does that change? What should be the priorities and emphasis of ODA? And how does DAC manage in the ODAs we've been doing for more than 60 years? Open and inclusive, also to try to bridge the notion of we need to action now, and then we also need thorough reflections before action. So there's a speed, there's a content issue that we have to manage all the way through. DBC, we want in that process also have to have a lot of contributions from DBC. It may not all have to wait for the end of the monitoring round, but if we can get some intermediate output from DBC, reflections on the data that you have as of now or in a few months' time, that would be really helpful. It's not always that timetables in different processes overlap, so we need to be a bit pragmatic in where we can draw some conclusions of it. But I think DBC as providing substantial input into this reflection process, and I think it's really important one. We're all there. There's a lot of other reflections going on this. The DAC process has been mentioned and referenced to in the Sevilla outcome, Compromiso de Sevilla, and we're grateful for that, and we'll try to basically to come back also to the UN system and to our members to reflect on how this thinking, how these conclusions, emerging conclusions of this review will actually and what direction they will point. So that's the point right now. Not a good situation, but we need to make do. We need to work from where we are. We need to try to make this into maybe a slight opportunity to do something else and do something better, to do something more effective, where we all need to pull together in the same direction. That's my first point. The second point is that I think that the Sevilla outcome is a really important one, and I reflect what Annika and others have been saying here, and that the fact that we have now a renewed emphasis on effectiveness, or not only specific reference to the EDC, but really, I think that effectiveness, value for money, is basically a really throughout the program of action. And this is actually what, and also all the follow-up actions in the program of action and the outcome document. I think that's a very significant part of this. It's 20 years ago that we had the Paris Principles this year. We are, I think, at the brink maybe of reinventing the effectiveness platform in another way, and to rediscover and to re-emphasize the whole notion of effectiveness as a key turning point in the way that we do business. And I think that is really incredibly important part of the whole of this whole conference. That also leads me then to the third point on the Pact for Effective Development Cooperation. I think that's basically a very well suited reflection of this renewed emphasis on effectiveness, that we boost that with the Pact. It's basically a chance to reset how we work together, how we move from commitment to action, and we have pointed to in many ways where we do that. We need to sustain political momentum and accountability. I think that the Pact also makes a point on transparency, on accountability, that this is one of the things that can drive increased effectiveness, and we need to double down on that. I think that is incredibly important. We need to create space for learning. We need to create space for honest dialogue. And the Pact is open and inclusive, and basically create space for evidence and contribution from all actors, including CSOs, academia, and providers of South-South cooperation. And that collaborative space is incredibly important. Then the third point, of course, that we need to build a renewed narrative. Trust, country ownership, results have to come together to provide the basis for a new narrative. Finally, I think one of the big advantages of the Pact is that it's country-driven, country-driven, and it's a chance for us to learn from each other on equal footing, and we force mutual accountability. I see the Pact as a shared platform, a way to bridge divides and elevate local voices and push forward the collective vision we need for the 2030 agenda in the last 5 years of its existence. So I want to call on all DAC members to join the Pact and to sign up to it, and to basically use this as a way to reinvigorate the effectiveness of it. We know the basic issues: fragmentation, lack of coordination, lack of transparency, lack of accountability. We know that we need to move these issues if we are to succeed in effectiveness. I think we now have a political blessing to do so. The issue is the hard work that needs to be done in order to transform the headlines into action. But I think we have a better chance to do that than we have had for many, many years. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the DAC chair. You concluded this high note, calling all DAC members to join the Pact. So we redouble this invite for all DAC members and beyond DAC members to join the Pact. The rightly enough referred to the GPDC monitoring exercise is an exercise that spans over 4 years, because we agreed to align with country processes, and the final report will be available in 2026. So the monitoring exercise going on right now, and some findings from some countries already available on the GPDC website. Comprehensive report to come in 2026. Thank you so much. We need to transition to the second panel. Let me see, we have our friends from Iran. Please join. We need to transition. We need friends from Nigeria and from Australia. Please join the people. Thank you. Thank you again.
No, after this panel, that will be speaking about longer. How was his part? No, just the response.
Okay. The second panel is really about the country level situation, using the terminology country level experiences. And I would like just to spend a few words to again refresh what we're doing when it comes to the GBDC monitoring exercise. I've just highlighted that a few years ago we reformed the system. Now it is more than ever aligned with country systems. You may recall one of the GBDC big decisions 10 years ago was to go country like global like country heavy. No. So to be country heavy, to be very short. And this basically translates into alignment with the country's frameworks, the country budget cycles, and this is something that as GBDC we're doing, and we would like to improve on that. So as the monitoring report will be available next year, we're going to reflect how to still improve on the monitoring exercise. Let quickly recall that from the monitoring exercise, we gather data that speaks to some of the SDGs, 5C, 17.15 and 17.8. And the monitoring exercise is not just an exercise to collect data. One of the big changes that was introduced is the ambition to have meetings in countries with all stakeholders involved to discuss the findings and to understand whether or not from these findings there might be political and policy changes, the so-called action plans. The Pact is really meant to make the most of this database, but the Pact is also meant to be open to other evidence bases, including TRSD. I see friends from the TRSD in the room, the voluntary national reviews, INFX, because we believe there are so many initiatives that, according to their agendas, are pushing in the direction of country ownership. So let's bring all these pieces together. I have important speakers with me. From my right, I have my dear friend Jennifer Rosario Malonzo from EBAN. To my right, I have my dear colleague Mr. Ariazon Gang from Nigeria. And my left, I have Mr. Christie from Australia, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you so much. As usual, I have some questions for you. You can address these questions the way you like. The first question is, in your understanding, GBDC monitoring exercise, other data gathering exercise, how to use this evidence in the most dramatic and predictable way, because we collect data and sometimes actually we're not using data. So that's the first question. And the second question is really about making sure that whatever we're doing actually goes in the direction of strengthen country ownership, so alignment with country priorities. And lastly, specifically, an important point about participation, inclusiveness, the role of non-executive actors, if I may say the role of systems specifically, because we know we live in an environment that is becoming less friendly when it comes to systems. Let me remind that the GBDC declaration of 2022 in Geneva was really addressing this point specifically, committing independence to GBDC to addressing the system treaty space. So this is issue of the system treaty space is one of the pillars of the GBDC. I will start from my right. Jennifer, you could address the questions as you like, and then we'll move this way. Thank you.
So I would like to thank you for the GBDC for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. Thanks, Luca. So let me start by stating this one fundamental sentence that the declaration of principles without addressing power asymmetries is just performative and unlikely to lead to behavior change. So that's one fundamental statement that VCS would like to make. we as civil society are here to advocate that the principles of effective development cooperation, democratic country ownership, focus on results, inclusive partnerships, transparency, and accountability. These are not just scripted declarations, but are living standards that we uphold and we want all of us to work on. FFT4, as already mentioned, the previous panel happens at the time when ODA is shrinking, when multiple global crises are compounding, and when effectiveness commitments from 2005 and beyond remain largely unfulfilled. Furthermore, development cooperation norms continue to be shaped by an undemocratic architecture, where unfortunately key decisions are made in exclusive rooms, where developing countries are seldom heard and without the meaningful participation of the very communities that ODA is supposed to serve. So in this context, what is imperative for civil society in development cooperation? Our answer is to strengthen our resolve to fulfill our roles. So we've been asked to define what should be our role in development cooperation, which is as rights defenders, as policy thinkers, also service providers, but above all, accountability partners. And this is happening in many places beyond the distant policies and leaders. For example, in Nepal, CSOs use GPEDC monitoring as a platform to raise community concerns on climate resilience and gender budgeting, issues which were not previously reflected in formal policy review. In Cambodia, civil society participation in national dialogue led to concrete recommendations for how donor funding could better support social protection systems, especially for the marginalized groups. And in Colombia, CSOs are actively working to monitor peace-related development programs, ensuring that ODA contributes to lasting structural change and not just the short-term outputs. However, in too many countries, as mentioned by our chair, civic space is shrinking. CSOs are still sidelined. Our input reduced to box checking exercises, or our work underfunded, particularly when it's critical of state or donor policies and practices. So what must change? First of all, we must call out the disconnect. So there is the rhetoric and the reality between donors' public commitments to aid volume and the trend already mentioned of significant ODA cuts. Between donors' public commitments to inclusion and yet the reality of centralization of decision. Second, country-level effectiveness will only improve if we fix the architecture. That means, one, development cooperation is anchored on country-owned development plans. And program decisions and norm setting are based on evidence from transparent reporting that allows all to input and track not just how much they spend, but also how and for whom. Policy spaces like the GPEDC itself, we are glad that it's not dominated by the agenda of just one party, and but really genuinely multi-stakeholder. And we hope that such multi-stakeholder partnerships that are co-owned and co-governed are replicated. And third, the 2030 Pact for Effective Development Cooperation, and we appreciate the DAC chair's call for donors to sign in. must be more than symbolic. It must, one, set accountability triggers for unfulfilled effectiveness commitments. Second, also, it should create binding benchmarks for local ownership and inclusive dialogue, and include clear safeguards to ensure that civil society's seat at the table is real, funded, and protected. And so let me close with this long-held belief that is backed by evidence. There is no genuine development without democracy. And there is no democracy without an empowered, independent, and included civil society.
Thank you. I know you have a report before you. Can you read something you read?
I hope you have your part of the Rule of Society or Rule of Government report on the GPDC and round, and how the CSO's reflections on this. We also have our publication on our call for a UN Convention on International Development Cooperation that explains why we are as civil society calling for this in this evidence.
Thank you. It's to me, it's a good evidence that SDBDC is producing numbers. The findings you can try, and you can find on the website. Our colleagues from the CSO partnership are already looking into these findings. So it is already possible to look into the findings. I would like to invite you to go to the GPDC website and look at the findings that slowly are being published. And this note, I would like to pass the floor to our colleague from Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, everybody. I'm pleased to share a few reflections on Nigeria's participation in the 2023 to 2026 Global Partnership Monitoring Round, and what we have learned through this important process. First, I must say that the exercise has provided Nigeria with critical insights that are already shaping our ongoing reforms on development cooperation policy and practice. To begin with, we have seen encouraging progress in promoting inclusive partnerships and country ownership. For instance, our national development plan that was developed had extensive consultations with government, civil society, private sector players, sub-national governments, and others. This reflects our deepening commitment to the whole of society approach. However, our median scores of 0.5% on parliamentary oversight and 0.6% on stakeholder engagement signals the need for us to do more. We need to institutionalize these engagements and ensure they happen more regularly, especially to reach those that are often left behind. We've also seen notable improvements in the use of our country systems. For example, the use of our public financial management systems by development partners goes from 28% in 2018 to 56% in 2023. So that's real progress, but at the same time, no development cooperation funding is currently reflected in the national budget. That remains a significant gap, and addressing it is essential for transparency, ownership, and alignment. And on transparency and data, we are pleased that Nigeria now has a comprehensive information management system for tracking development cooperation with a near perfect score of 0.97%. Still, only 75% of partners report to it, and none at the frequency that we require. So there's still room to strengthen compliance and foster timelier, coordinated reporting. On our commitment to leaving no one behind, it is evident in the structure of our national development plan, which sets specific targets for the poorest and vulnerable populations. However, a serious challenge remains in our capacity to collect disaggregated data. And the International Aid Transparency Initiative data is very helpful in this regard. So with a score of just 0.17%, we believe that we must strengthen our national statistical systems to ensure no one is invisible in our policy response. And finally, we recognize that we need to do more in our accountability framework. While our planning processes have improved, we have yet to establish country-level targets with our partners or conduct joint reviews. Building that framework still remains a priority for us. And looking ahead to next steps in our action dialogue phase that we are planning for the last week of August, we aim to establish a formal stakeholder development coordination forum. This will bring together the Parliament, CSOs, development partners, and subnational actors on a consistent basis. We are also looking to work fully to integrate development cooperation flows into the national budget, ensuring that they are subject to parliamentary scrutiny and public transparency. We intend to co-create country-level targets with our development partners and initiate regular joint assessments to enhance our mutual accountability. We are proposing to have a joint review with civil societies to improve the legal and policy environment for civil societies, with a focus on protecting advocacy space, and we will collaborate with partners to improve the predictability and alignment of their support, especially through the use of our results framework. We believe that these steps are not just technical improvements, rather they are necessary reforms to make our development cooperation more effective, inclusive, and also sustainable. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think really important to learn that you're going to have the actual dialogue in August, and we're going to do our best to involve our friends from the CSO community in Nigeria. And we are not taking lightly your updates because we know that there's so many challenges you're facing at the same time, and insisting on creating a safe space for interaction between stakeholders is so important. Let me move to the other side of the equation, because we heard about the efforts by partner countries. So possibly we can now understand from the, let's use the word, the donor country side, what is happening.
Great, thank you so much. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here. As you know, Australia's been committed to EDC for a while now, and absolutely delighted to be signing the 2030 Pact. Look, I guess I've got three key points, overall points, and then what we've done through our development policy, and then what we do at the country level. I think overall, look, I really want to emphasise just the importance as a donor of listening, and therefore being a true partner. For us in the Pacific, for example, you know, there's not a lot of other development partners, you know, providing funding. So absolutely the key point for us is listening. And I have to emphasise that, you know, when the Foreign Minister Wong came in 3 years ago now, she absolutely drove that through the department. I mean, not just in the development program, but also through foreign affairs. And it was such a good message to be sending, and you know, she held us all accountable. So that leadership on listening is absolutely essential. And when it's driven from the political level, it gets us bureaucrats' attention. You know, she holds us accountable through talking to stakeholders, checking if we are listening. And so really, you know, we had to provide that sort of 360-degree feedback to our partners to show that we were listening. So paraphrasing back what we've heard from them. And I think that was very powerful. And so I'll come to in a second to how we did that. And an example, you know, is the centrality of which you put NGOs and the civil society and faith-based organisations into that. You know, she makes sure when she travels, as does the development minister, when she travels in country, that she meets with them, hears from them, and again, you know, make sure that that accountability, you know, of what we are spending with our partners is checked, if you like, with partners. So again, leadership on listening is good. Now, you know, of course, you know, the importance of the Pact through ensuring that we're building in lessons. You know, I headed up our development effectiveness area for a while, and really, M&E is really important, but ensuring that everyone knows about lessons that I've actually long learned, and I think GPEDC brings together, is absolutely core. We're always getting new staff members in, and you know, each evaluation tends to say a very similar thing, and it is all of the things that, you know, I have on the piece of paper in front of me about what GPEDC brings to the table. You know, all the country ownership, the inclusive partnerships, focus on results and transparency. So, you know, that's, I think, really important for us to not lose sight of the fact that, you know, we have collectively around the world at different levels have a lot of experience on development, and ensuring that, you know, we drive that back to every individual, including, you know, for us, newly posted people out to then go and work with, but they really have these set of core lessons and learnings over a long period of time. So again, the principle of listening, and then just ensuring that that what we're doing is hardwired. We don't keep relearning, you know, these lessons. Is really important. So again, you know, capacity of our own people to be able to then engage fully when hearing from civil society, businesses, etc. I think is really important. A good example, you know, I mean, we are here at Financing for Development, and it added really kicked off blended finance as a core issue. You know, that was very powerful for us internally. Taken us a long time to build up the capacity on blended finance, but we now have some sort of $8 billion and $9 billion of blended finance mechanisms, and it's just gone through the roof, right? So a lot of that for us is focused on doing deals at Southeast Asia. The Pacific is more challenging, but that's a great example of where civil society, NGOs can help. So, but they need their own capacity to know how to do blended finance. Blended finance is a whole different world for many of us. I always say in my own organisation that there's various levels of skills, general development skills, and then there's health and education, etc. A health person can probably switch over to an education sector, but at the top of the tree is blended finance. When my blended finance people talk, I'm lost. The ecosystem within blended finance is incredibly complex. And so we're building up those skills. And what we really want to do, though, is bring civil society into that, because we all know the possibilities of blended finance. So we've set up what we call an NGO accelerator on blended finance, and just ensuring that we skill up civil society so that again they can be part of this process, because otherwise they're left behind. So we're doing a bit, you know, we've restructured, you know, our development policy around the various principles. We're doing, I think, more high-level accountability at the country level, the development plans, you know, a lot of consultation. And again, that leadership from the political level really checking every development partnership plan that came through. They very closely looked at who we'd spoken to, what that said, and then demanding how we reflected that back into our DPP. So we've all done development plans for a long time, but I really like the way that at the current moment, the political level is ensuring that accountability in the 360. It's not accountability just back to Australian ministers, but she's ensuring accountability back to, you know, the countries themselves and back to civil society. That's obviously the way it should work, and it's at the heart of what we're discussing here.
Thank you so much for sharing with us the lessons and what you're doing in Australia. I really like the point that political leadership is critical. Political leadership must ensure that all the principles and all the nice policies are properly implemented. And let me in fact recall that within the so-called GPDC evidence offer, there is space for reports on donors' performance. So within a space of 12 months, we're going to see some reports on how Italy is doing, how Australia is doing in terms of implementing the effectiveness principles, which is essential if we would like to stay true to the notion that this is also a mutual accountability platform, not traditional accountability. So thank you so much. I think you can stay here if you like. Now we have time for some Q&A. I know that we have some colleagues. I would like to call our friends from Uganda, Dr. Alex, to start the conversation. You can join from here. You can join as you like.
I can sit there.
As you
Or you can
prefer.
just sit there. Okay.
Please.
Okay.
It's a great pleasure to have you to start this conversation, and please get ready with your questions. Thank you so much.
Your Excellencies, colleagues, and the government partners, I'm honored to join you today as we outline a more effective and accountable global cooperation system based on shared development principles. Uganda embraces the ambition of 2030, the 2030 Pact for Effective Development Cooperation, and aligns with its call for country leadership, inclusive partnership, and result-driven engagement. Through the 2023 to 2026 Global Partnership Monitoring Round, Uganda reaffirms its commitment to using data and dialogue to drive action. Our national dialogues on the financing for development agenda include diverse stakeholders and reflect our whole of society approach. As we leave Seville, Uganda is energized to implement the funding for development outcome statement by enhancing domestic systems and transparency in line with our fourth National Development Plan. Insights from the Global Partnership Monitoring emphasizes the importance of evidence-based action and mutual accountability. We are encouraged by the momentum to translate our principles into concrete progress. Uganda is ready to collaborate with the Global Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation and all partners. Also, the Prime Minister will work with stakeholders to shape an inclusive cooperation system prepared for the future challenges. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for highlighting again the importance of basing our decisions on facts-based, evidence-based action. This is one of the big concerns as GPDC would like to address, making sure that decisions are based on evidence involving and coming from as many actors as possible. Thank you so much. Let me see if there are other questions from the room over there. We can move the microphone over there. Let me double check if our colleague Major is in the room. We have another question. Yes, thank you so much. We have good 20 minutes. So Yes, we can hear you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for giving me the chance. Yeah, my name is Iqbal. I'm from Bangladesh, from Post Foundation, organization. So very happy to be here and listening to you. One of my question is, Bangladesh's foreign debt is equivalent to more than $1 billion. But for the past, more than $234 billion has been laundered from the country. So, we close to the rich countries. So I'll ask here, if it is possible to stop the illicit financing and tax havens, so that we can make effective development cooperation for achieving our SDGs. And can take our laundered money back, so we can repay all the foreign debt and invest them to achieve our objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take a few more questions and then we try to offer an answer because the issues you're raising are so big, it's gonna be challenging to find an answer. I think I would like to call our friend Major Vitalis. Please, Major, you can stand up, introduce yourself. Where is your space for an input, Vitalis?
Sorry, thank you very much. My name is Vitalis.
Can you try again the microphone? Or you can come here, you can take my seat.
Is it working now?
No.
Yes, but you can hear me.
Yeah, come here.
No, please. No, so, I really apologize because I thought I was reacting discussant on some of these things. So if I can react to some of the statements on what we've had, Mr. Chair, if you allow me. No, I think first of all, really congratulations for having this event. The EDC is increasingly becoming a very important actor even in the financing for development context, because as you know, for many years, we were in a different setting, and now we are increasingly coming within the UN process, which is very quickly. Which I think indeed is very important, but the issue that Jennifer raised around, and I think also that chair raised around the scaling back and commitment to development, I think of ODA flows and stuff, I think is a major area of concern that we have discussed, because as we may remember, the aid effectiveness agenda, which culminated into this effectiveness agenda, came about from the fact that donor countries were preparing to double their ODA, particularly in the context of Africa, by 2010. And now, if this ODA is going to be cut or somehow even increased, our African governments are going to begin asking, what is the need for them? Why should they continue this? So but at the same time, donors themselves, if they are saying that they would rather add 5% to defense spending and not add anything to development, then why would they want to track anything that is even growing more like number? So we have to ask ourselves, what do we need to invest to bring about behavior change that is required to bring about development income? And I think for me, really, this FFD outcome document calls for us to scale up, not to scale down. And indeed, GPGC now should be the platform for implementation, especially on the elements that Dr. already raised, the issues of addressing fragmentation, strengthening country leadership, strengthening accountability and transparency. I think we need to go back to the drawing board, especially on the aid effectiveness element that we already identified that we need to do. I do welcome the proposal around the Busan Partnership Forum, which I think is very crucial. And indeed, it has provided a very important forum where developing countries' voice are discussed and the issues are deliberated to address the challenge. But we need to strengthen that and make sure that it contributes to the GPGC objectives and program areas. And lastly, is the question that we really have to talk about is how do we make sure that this path is closely linked to taking the agenda of the commitments that we realize at the conference. I think one of the things we have to celebrate is that the four effectiveness principles are now part of the International Development Corporation chapter in the EPIC group. So it doesn't matter whether you are north or south, these commitments apply to you as well. And so, as having been the architects of these principles, the question is how do we exercise that leadership in making sure that they work? And this is where the part becomes very important. So I think it is really important, therefore, and here I want to second my good friend Jenny, when she said that the Pact must provide the triggers for achieving the commitments that we have, realized in the end of before. Otherwise, it just becomes another, a launching space, and people get excited but don't achieve it. I think it's okay.
Thank you, and apologies again for not noting you in the audience in the first place. And thank you so much for recalling that the pact is not meant to be another layer, but as you said, it can be or should be a trigger facilitating synergies in generating change. And also thank you for recalling the long-standing commitment of the international community in this area. I believe we have another comment or question from over there. We have a question on illicit finance. This is then one thing. We have a microphone here in the room. And then go on. Osa.
My. Okay, very short. Is it work?
We're not lucky today.
Not lucky with the, okay, I'll try to speak loudly. My name is Osa Tomasana, it's the National Council of Swedish Development Organization. My question is for mostly for the representatives, the ministers that have spoken on the panel, who are coordinating national development plans, and hopefully, as we were discussing Nigeria inclusive development plans that are about the people and all relevant stakeholders. So the question is, my impression that I've gotten here at the conference is that there needs to be a renewed discussion about what the principles of national and inclusive national ownership means. Because what I'm hearing is a little bit of a disconnect where I'm hearing some of the development partner countries on different panels, and I'm hearing the word ownership and I'm hearing the words national leadership, but if you read between the line, it seems to mean don't come to us for money. It seems to be, national ownership in the sense that, you should take on more of this development rather than talking about the partnership and the commitments that are already there. So what I wanted to ask, what does that national ownership and national leadership mean for you? How easy to lead and coordinate are the development partners in your respective countries, and what can they commit to in the Pact to make that coordination and national leadership and ownership more easy? Okay.
Thank you. One last question from the floor. Mr. Sarazan, over there. The microphone is not working, but let's try again.
Thank you. I'm Laurent Sarazan, head of the International Forum on Oslo. And I have a proposal more than a question, because we're going to start in that connection with Oslo in the introduction. To recall, Trotsky offers, from the recipient perspective, a comprehensive data on ODA flows, but beyond ODA, South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation, globalized, with all resources reaching each country. We discussed on yesterday with Yati on two data sets of fundamental and usually we will also together in the initiative. The platform to improving the durability of our reporting processes. And we were discussing yesterday precisely that there is a lot to be said for offering at country level the three data sets of past use of reactive energy EDC with its data on the results in outcomes and effectiveness. So that these three data sets can inform decision making levels. So we're very willing to work together to have those history and make that ultimate to the country level decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurent. I might be speaking volumes on Thursday because I've been involved in early conversations from the start, but thank you so much for recalling that we have different metrics we can use to track resources. We are transitioning to the end. We're very delighted that we have the Deputy Prime Minister from the Republic of Congo for the concluding remarks, but I would like to understand whether or not there are reactions to the questions we heard from anyone from the panel. We heard some concerns about actual coordination in countries, for instance, what can actually be done to make sure that inclusiveness is so critical and vital. And also we had the overarching issue about managing and addressing the issue of illicit flows. I'm just wondering whether or not there's any feedback on this.
Okay, yeah, also the creation and ownership. I want to say that for us, ownership means sustainability. So in that sense, while we appreciate the blind professional partners, but we want to be the ones driving the blind process. That way, the blind professionals to align with our national priorities, and that's why mentioning IATI, we have upgraded our information management system to automatically integrate IATI data, so that way we can be able to track its flows in terms of the donors and also alignment with our national priorities and tracking the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking to that fundamental issue. Let me see whether or not to my right, Jennifer, you have an extra comment at this stage? Nope. To the left, that chair.
First of all, I think that the whole issue of illicit flows is very important. And we know the numbers, we have indications of the numbers. We don't have that much transparent data on it, but it is a huge problem. That is, at the same time as money goes into countries, a lot of illicit flows go out. And we should not play this down. We do have work in the OECD on that and illicit flows. I want to very much to scale that up. We know there are a number of barriers in some of the Western countries in terms of being the host of those illicit flows that we need to somehow also to get a discussion on. It's not an easy task, but I think there is an obligation here to deal with that issue. So I really commit to do as much as we can do on that, knowing that full well that there are major economic forces in play on this calendar, and it's not all about development communities that deals with that. But I do agree that this is an important issue and that we need to tackle it. So that's the first point. On ownership, it is true that we talk about national ownership, we talk about the whole of government ownership, we talk about government ownership, we talk about whole society ownership. The whole point, of course, is that ownership makes most sense if we talk about national ownership based on an inclusive dialogue with stakeholders, as Nigeria was basically referring to. If that works, we can combine the notion of national ownership with the whole of society ownership. The difficulty is if it doesn't work. If that national ownership does not include or is not based on an extensive dialogue with other stakeholders in the country, then there is a discord in the notion of ownership, and there will be also different responses to that. some partners will more with local authorities compared to working on a broad-based national priority and strategy. But it's something that it's the real world here. And no, not all countries are perfect, not all donor countries are perfect, not all partner countries are perfect. We need to work together to create frameworks for interaction between ODA aid and the partner structures. If we need to work in different directions, of course, we will do that. But the ambition is, and I hope that what we get out of the FFD4 is this call for national ownership, national priority, national strategies. That has to be based on an inclusive dialogue with social partners and with other stakeholders in society in order to be really effective. I think that for me is the main message. Before we reach perfection, we are living in an imperfect world, and our responses will also be imperfect. But we need to drive towards a more perfection on this issue. Thank you.
I thank you with that chapter is focused on social dialogue as one of the main elements to ownership. And on this note, I'm very glad to transition to the final input and conclusions of this side event. So thank you so much for joining till the last minute. I have the pleasure to introduce the Deputy Minister of the Republic Democratic of Congo, His Excellency Moiza, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I have to apologize because I had to make my speech. That's why I was not able to intervene. So a lot of things have been said here, and for me, it's really amazing to see the evolution of effectiveness agenda over time, from Monterey Consensus to Paris Declaration, and then agreement for Busan. And today it's really amazing to see that for the FFD4. So we are talking about this. I mean, the key word today to say we have limited resources that we have to use properly. And for that, the global partnership is really key. But and we should be proud of this from people who already trusted and believed that. Then we have now to work and share with everybody, all the partners and then the countries, try to get in the group and work on it. And I would also say, especially for Democratic Republic of Congo, I would say this is really important. It was very important for us in our processes. Because again, as the question had been asked about the ownership, this was something used properly with making our plan using all the partnership from the beginning to the last point. And then today we are in the position to have discussion with all the partners and try to share the information that we have or what we have done. So it is really important that all stakeholders, they have to put together the information so that we can share between countries and share experiences, and then also to make sure that we can evaluate each other. So that's what we are getting from the world everywhere. We have to make sure that our population is having a big impact on that. So I think this is an essential for a message for now. And then for the global partnership, we see being part of the FFD4, I think it's really something very good, because says nowadays you have to take into account this process. So it will help us to put together a lot of people around this and make sure that we have some results. Thank you.
I really would like to thank the Deputy Minister of the Republic of Democratic of Congo for recalling that whatever we're doing here, we're doing this for the benefit of the people and the countries, the countries, and the notion of leaving one behind. So thank you so much. The stakes are very high, and we at the GPDC are going to feel a lot of pressure to deliver on these promises, and hopefully together through the Pact, we're going to work together. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have a press launch, 8:30, to officially launch the Pact. You're all invited, obviously, and just recalling that we're going to convene the Pact members at this stage by mid-July to start working together. So thank you so much. I would say the conversation just adjourned, and we're going to really sort of start looking to the plans and practicalities of this back. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes. I don't know. Yeah, you have. Yes. You did what? It was very good. Yes.
Yes, the impact that we
If you are
looking for.
the impact we are looking
for.
Hey,
Right vaccines.
I'm not coming back next time. It is